start again. It's a rich
What's up, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Chicago Bulls Weekly to discuss for you guys as we look at this previous week for the Chicago Bulls, as well as focus on the upcoming week for the Chicago Bulls. 4 games to look forward to, 3 games to discuss that's already taken place, and we give some awards out for the Chicago Bulls team. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the current Chicago Bulls status at the moment. What are you looking forward to in the upcoming week? And of course, what do you think about the previous results and the awards? Everything in this video. If you have anything to say, feel free to let me know in the comments below. So we had 3 games to look forward to in this previous week, and we ended up going 1 and 2, ladies and gentlemen. Not a really bad week overall. I think the games that we lost and the games that we won were very competitive and very close. And of course, a short-handed Bulls team, what we always want to see is fight and effort, and I think throughout all these games, despite the margins of the losses and the margins of the win, we definitely see good progression in the effort and the fighting status, and that's always what we want to see. No lack of effort, no lack of energy, no lack of desire or motivation. Every single game has to be go, go, go. 100% energy, 100% hard work. Whether the offense is flowing or the offense is poor, you have to bring that energy. And I think despite the negative week for the Chicago Bulls, we did end up bringing a lot of energy. Let's start off with the game against the Memphis Grizzlies, where we ended up falling in this game 119 to 106. This was a very difficult game. Obviously, a game away from home to the Memphis Grizzlies is always going to be a game that we don't necessarily... Well, a game, I guess you could say, that's very difficult for the Chicago Bulls. Again, I think most Western Conference trips that the Bulls go with will be very difficult. But the Bulls did fight for the majority of this game, and we fell just a bit short. Ja Morant was actually the one that kind of had a quiet game. I think he only had like 23 points against us. He's obviously an MVP caliber player, and I think players like Io did a great job in this game, and Kobe White did a good job in this game. But unfortunately, we did not have enough firepower to secure a win against the Memphis Grizzlies. And this was also the game where Vucevic had a really poor game defensively and effort-wise when it comes to players like Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson. Both of them, one of them returned from COVID, and the other one ended up getting injured in that game, but still, they did outwork Vucevic. That's the game against the Memphis Grizzlies. Then we had a much better performance against the Cleveland Cavaliers, where we won 117 to 104. Vucevic had a much better game in this time compared to the Memphis Grizzlies, and I think the Bulls in total played absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, DeMar DeRozan had his way with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kobe White abused the pick and roll. Io had a fantastic second half, and it was a game of matchups in which Cleveland capitalized on their matchups with 7-footers pretty much for that majority of that team, taking advantage of the Chicago Bulls. But we also used our matchups in the pick and roll and the isolation game with DeMar DeRozan that truly sealed the victory for the Chicago Bulls. Then we got the last game that we versed this week against the Milwaukee Bucks, where we lost 94 to 90. This was obviously a really tough and competitive game where both teams played very poorly. Both teams could not score from the 3-point line. Both teams simply were not good enough in this game, if you probably asked both sides from Bulls fans and Bucks fans. But at the end of the day, the Milwaukee Bucks did end up with the superior team at the end of the day compared to what the Bulls currently have at the moment. They walked out with a 4-point victory in their home turf, which I think was the expected result. It's a result I can't complain about. However, this is also the game where we lost Alex Caruso, and I think a lot of people will feel very hard done by with this game for that circumstance alone. Looking at the awards, ladies and gentlemen, first things first, starting off with the must improve of the week. And I do have a very straightforward answer. It might not be the most fair answer, but at the end of the day, there is something going on in this situation, and that's why I'm going to pick him. I'm going to pick Chicago's own Alfonso McKinnie, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Alfonso McKinnie is someone that may have not been given enough game time to really show what he can do on the floor for the Chicago Bulls, but he's starting 2 out of the 3 games for this team, and he's only played around 5 minutes in both of those games, scoring only around 2 points. Now, I'm sure many people might see this as Alfonso McKinnie just simply not getting an opportunity, but this also could potentially mean that the Chicago Bulls don't see great value in him starting or even in the rotation at times for the Chicago Bulls, and maybe the opportunities are wearing thin with Alfonso McKennie. And I think if you're a starter and you're only getting 5 minutes and there's nothing wrong with you, there's no injuries, there's no concerns, but you're still only getting 5 minutes, I think it shows that there might be a lack of trust with the Chicago Bulls and Alfonso McKennie at the moment. And it goes to show with the Bucks game, I don't think he played at all, and he was starting in the previous two. So that is my must improve. I think for the week that he has to do a lot more to capitalize on the opportunities that's presented to him. And if there is a bench spot available for him and he gets the minutes required, because let's be honest, there are a few players that hasn't really stepped up as much as we would like this week. If there is always an opportunity for Alfonso McKennie, I think in the next period where he does get those game times, he has to be much better. He has to improve, and he has to work very hard to get back into the rotation if he's fallen out of it. The sixth man of the week, considering Ayo and Kobe White started for this week, I can't give it to both of them. And if you look at the bench, you had players like Matt Thomas that had a great game against the Bucks. Alex Caruso only played 2 games this week. Troy Brown Jr. was there as well. Tony Bradley, Tyler Cook started, so he's not in that conversation. For me, it's going to be Alex Caruso. I think the 2 games that he returned in, you can clearly see the level of him compared to the rest of the bench at the moment. He was coming into this team, played 2 games, and in both of those games, you see his qualities defensively really shine through for the Chicago Bulls. You see his playmaking ability really shine through for the Chicago Bulls. He may have not had the best scoring night for the Milwaukee Bucks, but he's a leader, ladies and gentlemen. At the end of the day, he's going to be a big miss for the Chicago Bulls, and he was, in my opinion, a pretty easy choice for sixth man of the week. And the player of the week for me is going to be DeMar DeRozan. I think after the Milwaukee Bucks game, or before the Milwaukee Bucks game, I should say, Ayo was going to be the one that I was going to give it to. I think I had that feeling all week that if Ayo just could stay consistent, he would probably get that player of the week for me. But DeMar DeRozan was fantastic against Cleveland, and I think by far DeMar DeRozan was the best player against the Milwaukee Bucks. So it's a very unfortunate circumstance that Ayo could not stay relatively consistent, and he didn't have a great game against Milwaukee. But nevertheless, it's one bad game, and it does reflect in the Player of the Week awards, but it doesn't reflect in his season in total. He's been fantastic as a starter for the Chicago Bulls so far, but DeMar DeRozan's our best player at the moment, probably our best player of our season. Very hard to compare between Zach and DeMar at the moment because they're both so talented in their own separate and unique ways. But DeMar DeRozan was truly unbelievable. He had a great game against Milwaukee, and I thought he was really outstanding against Cleveland. And he does what DeMar DeRozan does. He slows down the game, he breaks down his opponent, he gets to the line, he shoots mid-ranges at a very high level. This was a really good week for DeMar DeRozan, despite all of the negative around the Chicago Bulls at this point in time. Now let's look at the upcoming week, ladies and gentlemen. We've got 4 games to look forward to. The first one is going to be away from home against the Orlando Magic. Now, this is an opportunity for the Chicago Bulls to get a win where we are expected to get a win. It's in one of those circumstances where, again, we might be short-handed, but Orlando are a team that at the end of the day are not at the highest level of the NBA calendar. They're not at the highest peak of what they can be, and we have to capitalize on games like this. If we lose to the Orlando Magic, it's going to be a very frustrating loss despite the win, despite how many points it is or whatever the case may be. It's going to be a really unfortunate situation if we ended up losing to the Orlando Magic. This has to be a situation where the Bulls go all out. Otherwise, we could definitely see a circumstance where maybe we have a frustrating game to talk about. But I think the Bulls will walk in confident. And then we got another away game against the OKC Thunder. We'll be traveling once again to Oklahoma, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, we ended up giving up a 22 or 23 point lead, I believe, to the OKC Thunder. I haven't forgotten that game because it was one of the worst games of our season last year, and it was a frustrating loss in every sense of the word. I was purely and with utter rage after I made a video on that game against the OKC Thunder. So I know this might be a little bit subtle for me, but I'm thinking of a little bit of revenge for what they did to us last year, and I really want to get this win away from home against the OKC Thunder. I think that it's going to be bittersweet for me, and I'd really like to see the Chicago Bulls pull that off. Then we return home to the Toronto Raptors. I feel like this is when we could potentially see Zach LaVine and Javonte Green return, because it's going to be at the United Center. It's going to be in Chicago, and it's going to be a good game for us and a quick homestand for the Chicago Bulls as well. It gives both of those players a chance to re-energize, get back into the team, get back into the style of play, and if they both perform well, fit right into the team and makes us instantly better. Let's look forward to that game against Toronto. And then the last game, we're going on another away trip back to Texas, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to San Antonio, and this is another game where the Chicago Bulls gave up a massive lead. Again, this was last season, and I'm really hyping this up because we have an opportunity with a different team, in my opinion, to capitalize on both of these situations with the OKC Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. I'm surprised that we are ending up playing this game against Toronto in this circumstance, because again, we're kind of like traveling back and forth here. I don't know if that's one of the cancelled games that ended up coming back into this week. That's a bit frustrating, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Our games got postponed, and they have to put it in eventually. They're going to cram our season. It's just the way that it is. But for the Chicago Bulls, we ended up giving up a 23-point lead against the San Antonio Spurs last season. This was obviously a Spurs team that didn't even have DeMar DeRozan last year when we played them. So it's going to be an emotional game for DeMar DeRozan, of course, as it is for the Toronto Raptors as well. Two teams that he has a really strong connection to, has played with before. And again, it's a game that I think should be a message that we should go out and win for DeMar DeRozan, and also for a little bit of bittersweet revenge from last season to this year as well. Let's just see what the Chicago Bulls can do, ladies and gentlemen. At the end of the day, I don't think any of these games are going to be considered easy games, considering where we are at the moment as a team, the players that we have out, and just the overall way that we have been losing some games in recent times. But I do feel confident against some of these opponents, despite them not being relatively easy. We just have to go out and show what the Chicago Bulls can do when we give 100% effort. And I think that can definitely carry us over the line a few times this week. Let's hope it does. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. If you watch every week, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you next week. If you don't, I'll see you in the game reaction against the Orlando Magic. Take care.